Great. Thank you, clerk. Got the message. I believe we're live. Hello, everybody. Afternoon. Today is April 19th. We are here for the Board of Police Commissioners meeting. And as always, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of Mi'kmaq, and we are all treaty people. Really quickly, let's do some audio and video check for commissioners who are here, starting with Commissioner Blackburn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here. Looking forward to having a good discussion this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kent will be with us later. Commissioner Thomas.
All right, thank you, Lindell. I'm happy to be here as well and look forward to the meeting.
Great, happy to see you. And Commissioner McDougall.
Thank you. Happy to be here as well and looking forward to the meeting.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're gonna, at 2 o'clock, we're gonna take a moment of silence to remember the events that happened April 2020 and to honor the victims. So at 2 o'clock, depending on where we're at on the agenda, we'll take a moment of pause and I'll ask Chief Superintendent Gray to say a few words and then we'll have 2 minutes of silence. So we'll move on to community announcements. Are there any community announcements from commissioners at the moment? Yep, Commissioner McDougall.
I just noticed actually last night on Twitter that there is a National Black Canadian Summit being held on Tuesday, tomorrow night, 7:30 to 9. And it's hosted by the Michael Jean Foundation. And Elle Jones is one of the speakers, so it's free to join. And there's an Eventbrite listing if anyone's interested. And they're talking about reimagining justice. So just thought I'd mention it. It's not necessarily local, but it's something that now everything's local, right?
Right.
When we can join.
Thank you. That's actually a great event 2.0. And also really quickly, which I forgot to do, we don't have Commissioner Borden today because Commissioner Borden's term has come to an end. So we take a moment to thank her for her service on the commission and wish her all the best as she helps take care of our province in the health world. So we appreciate all that she's done for us in the past and in the future. So going on to approval of the minutes, March 8th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? If there's no comments, moved by Commissioner McDougall, second by Commissioner Blackburn. Thank you. All those in favor, aye, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Seeing none, we have the minutes. Moving to the approval of the order of business, approval of additions and deletions. I'm wondering if there are any additions or deletions, clerk.
There are no additions or deletions for the agenda today.
Thank you. The only thing I'll note is there is a motion for item 10.146, independent legal counsel for Board of Police Commissioners, in which we've now we'll at the time we'll put it on the floor, but that the motion has been put in the chat here, and when we get to that item, we'll mention it. Other than that, the agenda is nothing has changed, and ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Blackburn, seconded by Commissioner McDougall. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. Moving to business arising out of the minutes, there are none. Call for conflicts of interest. Seeing none. Consideration of deferred business, we have none. Correspondence, petitions, delegations, are there any correspondence, clerk?
There is no additional correspondence for this meeting today.
Thank you. And I don't believe there's any petitions, no petitions from commissioners or clerk's office. Don't believe so. We have no presentations today, no information items to be brought forward. I'm wondering if are there any items on the information piece that members would like to bring forward at the next meeting? If not, we'll move on. Seeing none. All right, so moving on to reports and discussions, 10.1.1, what the report recommendations update. So I believe, oh, I lost my, sorry, my Zoom just closed. So what this item is here is to discuss the potential, well, the 2-year update on this report. We had discussion, a very brief discussion last meeting on this item. So really, we only have this one piece on here to make sure that any pieces that commissioners want to make sure is included in that report. We do that now, and then we will, from this meeting, we'll go away and start to prepare that 2-year report summary. So I'm just wondering if there's any comments from commissioners, things they want to make sure is included or not included, or comments. Anything is welcome. And then Chief, if you have any questions, I'll go to you last. Yep, when we'll start with Commissioner McLeod.
So I was just, as I was reading through that, I was thinking, who is this report actually for? Is it for us as a board, or is it for the community, or and that obviously would impact what gets included in the report. I think it could go some ways to connecting to trust and confidence, and addressing some of the communications issues would be pretty important. Some of the recommendations around communications and community. And so I just wanted to add that and ask if we've agreed on who our audience is for this report.
Right.
Obviously us, but who else as well?
Right. My opinion, and of course, depending on what the commissioners is as a whole, I think it'd be more of a public-facing document, because we, as a commission, have received updates almost, if not all meetings, since the release. But there's no real easy place for, other than looking at the tracking list and et cetera, there's no really easy place for us to see from release to now what has been done and what is ongoing and timelines, et cetera, et cetera. So I envision it being a public document, but of course that's me, and depending on what other commissioners feel as well. So I'm wondering, there's all, if commissioners want to jump in, feel free. Chief, I'm just wondering if you have any, Costella, I'm wondering if you have any questions for us as the commission, just to give clear, I guess, direction or whatever you might need to make sure that your folks have all they need to move forward.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the commission. So I just make some comments to open up, if that's okay, just to maybe help shape and guide where we want to go. As we know, there are a number of recommendations.
Is he frozen for anyone else?
A number of them are shared between the RCMP and the HRP and the Department of Justice. Pardon? Sorry, did somebody?
You froze on my screen. I'm not sure if you froze for anybody else. Okay, you did. So you want to start over just because you froze? Sure.
Yeah. Hopefully I won't freeze again.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so just some comments to open up to help shape and guide perhaps the discussion. And certainly we're open to any direction from the board in regards to what the 2-year report will look like. I think it's important just to recall there are a number of the recommendations that are shared between the RCMP and HRP. There are also a number of recommendations that are not only shared with the Department of Justice, but are currently assigned to be led by the Department of Justice. So we have to consider some of those. Beyond that, there are a number of issues around the street check, data retention, those kind of things that will prevent us from summing up or concluding some of the initial recommendations very early. has to do with data retention. What does it look like? Our continual outreach through our community channels for freedom of information requests, and on the RCMP side, requests. I don't want to speak for the chief superintendent. And then the next set really is around the data collection. And we know that Deputy Chief Don McLean currently co-chairs a committee with Kimberly Franklin of the Human Rights Commission. And they have the academic assigned now, and there's ongoing work. I know they just met this past Saturday. I don't have an update, but there is work going on around that. And then finally, the last piece, or the last pillar, I'll call it, is the police community relations piece. And I think we can safely say there's been a number of, outreach and work items that we have done. We've got through the apology and the follow-up work, a number of things that are in the hopper. The Chiefs Advisory Committee currently up and running. And what I would say about that is we're likely to have to continue those for the long term. I think, I don't think that we're going to be saying that those recommendations that relate specifically around police community relations, I don't think that we're going to conclude them anytime soon, and nor do I think we should. There'll be a maintenance component to those over time, and we'll have to continue the work in that areas. I just wanted to add that particular context, and I think we need to lay, the expectation on timelines. What does that mean? The chief superintendent may have might allow for the board to put some further consideration into what they might want to see. And I'm open to any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. We're having some connection issues, and it might be because I know Chief Gray had some connection issues earlier as well. So it could just be because I believe you're both at the headquarters. So maybe it's something to do with the internet there, not sure. Are there any further comments from members? And you can also put in the chat if you have a question. I won't call on each of you. There's only 3 of you. So if you want to put in the chat, if you have further comments, just let me know. Yeah, Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you. Just no questions, but I think just a comment that I think it's imperative that that this report be taken to the community for further discussion. I think at the 2-year mark, it's imperative that the community have a comprehensive update on where we are and where we're going. More importantly, thank you.
Thank you. So I guess for clarification, then thinking of that 2-year report. So obviously, as the chief mentioned, the recommendations that were put forward, those would be in it. Where we are in terms of completing those recommendations. Some of the initiatives that were spoken about around the race-based data collection and some of the other pieces. I think it'd be important to also have the timeline of events. So from when the report was released to the apology to whatever else might make sense to be putting in that for information. And I'm not sure what else, but as you mentioned, Commissioner Blackburn, having some way where maybe even getting an excerpt or a letter from DPAD or the Human Rights Commission who initially asked for this to happen, getting something from them on how they feel this work has progressed or not, depending on their feelings. I'm not sure. But I think the more we have in there, the better, but also we don't want to make it too grueling of a task to put out to the public. So if there's anything further, you feel free to chime in. If there's anything, we could always just email me or the chief and include it, and then we'll take the information back. And I believe we have the minutes to look back on, and don't know if we have a timeline on when that will be complete, but maybe next meeting we can give an update on how long it might take to compile that information. Does that work? All right, seeing head nods and thumbs up. So there's no motion on that item, and Chief already has spoken. So I ask that we move on to the next item, which is 10.1.2 Halifax Regional Police Information Technology Audit Report. And Chief Counsel, this is you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. And through you, I just got off the phone with Andrea, and we talked just about my connection. So I've been in and out, so I won't be putting my video on, hopefully to have some extra bandwidth, and you'll be able to hear me give my report. So as you'll recall at the last meeting, we provided a memo to the board. We talked about a high-level summary on what HRP is doing to rectify and meet the recommendations of the IT audit report. And we've been continuing to do that. This month, we're going to report to the board and bring forward reports on every quarter going forward, or bi-monthly, depending when the months hit. Our next update will be in June. And we have agreed to implement all 39 recommendations that were put forth by the auditor. And we're going to focus, as I have mentioned in the past, on the highest risk categories. So we'll continue to do that. The working group that's been assembled has been working hard, consisting of senior leaders within the organization and subject matter experts from our IT department and policy and our criminal investigation division, among others. And I just want to reiterate for the commission that HRP takes the findings of this audit very seriously, and we're committed to actioning them thoroughly and in a timely fashion. So with this particular set of information, we did send a information report to the board, and what we had committed was to have 4 individual recommendations met by April. And I can say that the project team, as I mentioned, has worked very hard. And the 4 public recommendations that we said that we would meet, we have. I'll just go through them very quickly. Obviously, the first recommendation was to ensure that we had regular updates to the board. We've established those through the board at the March 8th meeting. It was captured in the minutes that it would be bi-monthly, and we will continue to report to the board on a regular basis, and obviously change if they would like to do that. We've also, recommendation number 2 was to establish a reporting relationship between the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, and all staff with covert and technology security responsibilities. So we have done that, and we've to do that, we've changed relevant job descriptions, and we've had a conversation with the employees so they understand that the job descriptions have changed, and we have signed documentation to indicate that everyone acknowledges and understands their roles going forward. The next one in the public portion was recommendation number 9. And it says Halifax Regional Police should update and regularly maintain its information technology assets. We have met that requirement as well. And we've done that through a compiled and approved asset list. Members of our information technology unit assets within vehicles or other oversight for that particular asset list will rest with our IT men, and ensuring that that is constantly up to date. The final one in the public's number 10, municipality information.
Yeah, Chief, we keep losing you. I don't know. What if we
Communication like with HRP. So we
Chair Smith, we can connect with Chief Kinsella via phone and see if he can join via phone for this.
that's going to be my suggestion.
There are some internet connectivity issues. We're working on it with him right now. We'll connect with him.
Okay, so let's take 2 minutes for Chief to get connected to us through phone, and then we'll finish the report. I think the last one that I had clear was maybe number 2 on our list. So yeah, if we can take a quick break, and we'll allow Chief to connect via phone. I guess maybe both chiefs, since they're in the same building, might be worthwhile doing that.
Good timing.
Yeah, great timing.
Good, because I just walked in the house, so I'll take a.
So Chair, it's Chief. So do you want me to join by phone then?
Yeah, it probably makes sense just because you're in the same building. You're probably going to have the same issues.
Okay.
So
we'll
Chief Gray, you are coming in loud and clear, as well as your video was working perfectly fine
Okay.
before.
Okay.
okay, well, I'll wait. If I get kicked out, I'll join by phone then.
Okay. Sounds good. How are we making note for Chief?
Chief Kinsella is in the meeting.
Okay, great. Via phone?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, let's go back. All right, quick check. Chief, are you there? How do you, okay, yep, I see you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now, loud and clear.
Okay.
So
All
the
right,
last
perfect.
one, the last one that I heard clear was 2, so number 9 and 10. If you could start there, that'd be great.
Okay, so just following up on Number 9, it was that HRP should update and regularly maintain its information technology asset list. So we have compiled and approved an asset list. The asset list is updated in each of the instances where our technicians change out assets, so it is current. The policy associated to that has been updated and implemented, and a department order has been put out to that regard. And additionally, the list has a maintenance plan and an oversight plan where it is checked on a regular basis to make sure that is up to date. So that's number 9. Number 10 is HRP should assess HRP municipality information, communication, and technology to determine whether their policies are adequate for work at home. We have done some research. We have had some discussions with ICT staff, and we have created and implemented a policy to address teleworking. All staff who work remotely at any time will be required to read the new policy and sign an agreement to acknowledge understanding. And it has been set to industry standards. And it's not only as a result of the people who are working home from COVID, but has been implemented for all employees that have the ability to work at home at any time, and also will be retroactively signed off. So all of our internal employees are being asked to sign that particular policy and demonstrate understanding. So not only going forward, but also everyone in the past. And that is the update on the 4 public recommendations.
Thank you, Chief. I'll start off with Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just a quick question, because I think, from my perspective, the most troubling part of this report was just the realization that the information that was being sent out to the board perhaps wasn't the most accurate or complete. And I noticed that number 1 on the list of items that's completed is the fact that steps have been taken to ensure the information is accurate. And I'm just wondering, can we get a little bit more information? I mean, what steps have been taken to ensure that the Board of Police Commissioners only gets complete and accurate information?
So I gave you the verbal update on what we've done to implement the four recommendations that we've discussed. They were captured through, number 1, obviously the reporting. We hadn't had a report going back till July of 2019 initially. And I certainly do understand the history here. And I also understand that it's caused a level of skepticism and some anxiety amongst the board. So today was our first reporting mechanism. And the recommendations that were put forward today were addressed in the manner that I've mentioned. We have documentation that is being held at various levels in the organization with the deputy chief in the information technology unit and in the various units that are effective to be able to demonstrate that the recommendation has been fulfilled, whether that be to the auditor in the future or potentially members of the commission if they would like to see that. Some of that information, we can't make public because it speaks to the security of a number of our systems, but it is available to, as I say, the auditor and or the board to satisfy, requirements are met and that there is an understanding. So not sure if that answers your question, Commissioner, but I'll leave it at that for now.
No, understand completely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Commissioner McDougall, anything from you? No. Okay, Commissioner Kent, I know you just arrived. All right, and Commissioner Thomas. We're good. Okay. Thank you. So the Commissioner Blackburn, you hit on one of the points I was going to make. So thank you. I won't go further on that. The only other question I have for you, Chief, is number 10, with the new agreement for teleworking staff. Is this just for IT staff or any members that would be able to work from home?
No, it's for any and all members that have the ability to work from home within HRP.
Right. So the question for me, and this might get a little too down in the weeds. So when members who have the ability to work from home, when I think of some of the officers who have devices, so their own phones or et cetera, which they can take from home or they take with them, is that considered an asset that you would need to have an agreement with?
Well, thanks for the question, Sharon, through you to the commission. Any asset that allows connection to our network from a remote location would be required to be signed off on. So anyone that has that ability would have to read the policy, demonstrate understanding of it, and then sign off on an agreement that's kept in their personnel file to say that they'll abide by the particular rules that are there. So, it could be a phone, I suspect. I don't think we have a lot of ability through cell phones to be able to do that. And I'll confirm that, but the majority, or if not all of it, would be through laptops and those kind of connections where individuals are able to work from home. And it wouldn't be generally at the frontline or patrol level. It's more, in the investigative or higher levels of the organization. But anyone who has the ability, and it could be a frontline, it could be a civilian member, anyone who has that ability moving forward has to enter in the agreement before they're able to do it. And we are tracking back, even though it wasn't part of the recommendation, tracking back to everyone that has that ability all the time to make sure that they demonstrate an understanding of the policy and sign off on the requirements.
Okay, so as we go further, you'll be able to give an idea of maybe not the number, but you'll be able to do a further assessment of the type of devices that could be covered under this.
So I just, through you, Chair, I just got an update from staff in the room to remind me that all cell phones are issued through HRM, and we follow the policy at the HRM level on cell phone use. Okay. All right, great.
Helpful information. And as mentioned before, we have further discussion in camera on some of the other items. So I'm not seeing anyone with further questions here. So I will move on to the next item. So thank you, Chief, for that. Trying to get to the screen. All right, so moving on to the next item, which is 10.1.3 Halifax Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police Financial Reporting. And first we have Chief Costello with HRP. I can see you're off mute, Chief, but I can't hear anything.
How about now?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, thanks, Sharon, through you. So we've provided an information report on third quarter reporting financial update. And as everyone knows, our budget is approved annually by the BOPC and Halifax Regional Counsel. This particular written information report takes us right through till the end of December 2020. And I have Mr. Craig Horton in the room here should anyone have any questions they'd like to ask in regards to the report.
Okay, great. Any commissioners have any questions? I'll just start with who I see in the screen. As Commissioner Beals has asked in previous meetings, I'll go randomly. So not one person is always in the front. So I'll go with Commissioner McDougall if you have any comments. No, nothing from Commissioner.
I just have one in the background. The second paragraph at the end of the third quarter and in bracket It says December 31st, 2021. Should that be 2020?
So, Commissioner, and through you, Chair, it should say 2020.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't you love the sticklers? Thank you, Commissioner McDougall. Commissioner Blackburn.
All good. No questions from me, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Kent. No, and Commissioner Thomas. Okay, they're all good. Thank you, Chief. Information was helpful. One question that's not on here, but it was something that I received an email about, and this was in our past budget adjustments pre-COVID or post-COVID, and it was around the Youth Advocate Program. So I know you spoke on this before, and I couldn't find the meeting minutes that where you spoke on it, but I'm just wondering, was it the case where that budget moved to Parks and Rec, or does that budget still sit within HRP?
Through you, Chair, it still sits with HRP, but is managed through Parks and Recreation.
Right. So the adjustments that we did with that program, and do you know from your understanding, and maybe this is better asked for Parks and Rec, so if it is, let me know. Do you know if any of those cuts affected the program at all? Because I know there was some money that was adjusted to get our COVID envelope.
Yeah, and I just conferred with Mr. Horton, Chair, and through you, we don't have that info, so might be better asked through Parks and Rec.
Okay, so just for clarification, though, it's in your budget, but it's managed by Parks and Rec.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Okay, all right. So I'll follow up with them and get that information. Okay, so seeing there's no further questions on that item, thank you, Chief, and there's no motion needed for that. We'll move on to the Rcmp. Chief Gray, please, and thank you.
Good afternoon, through you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, I'll leave my video off as well, as we're getting kicked out every couple minutes. So further to the information report that was provided, as you know, I have a direct control over 3.6 million for the discretionary funding. You can see in the document the year-to-date spendings. Of course, on the Rcmp fiscal, we still have P13 and P14. So it indicates currently that we will be coming under budget. However, we've yet to align the last two reporting months with the final budget. So it's we're going to be coming probably slightly over. However, within H Division Finance, that's already been rectified.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Thomas, any comments for Chief? Seeing none. Commissioner Kent? Commissioner Blackburn?
Nothing at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. And Commissioner McDougall? Okay, great, thank you. So Chief, I know this is one that you've talked about before, and I think it gives some further clarification for folks who might not understand. So can you speak a little bit about this budget in, well, it says here 3.6, but 3.9, I believe is the total, and how you are, what's the word I'm looking for? The oversight, how the oversight, because that money is that's provided to you from the province, and you have, obviously your office has oversight on it, but as the commission, it's not something that we can really give you direction on. So I'm just wondering if you can kind of give the really quick background of just how that money and how you're responsible and who you're responsible to with it.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Chair, to the commission. So the contract is between the province and HRM. We, as stated before, are the service provider, the contractor, the funding is given to H Division, so Rcmp Nova Scotia, and then they allocate my budget, which is, again, we submit that every single year, and I'm held accountable to H Division Finance, who then reports to the province and HRM. When it comes to the discretionary funding, like the majority of the budget is for wages, and then the discretionary funding is a line by line accountability mechanism that I have to adhere to, and that's reportable to H Division Finance, which again will be to the province and who then would share it with yourself, with HRM, pardon me, not the board.
Okay, great. So if we wanted further information on these budget items for whatever it might be, whether it's how you spend it on uniforms or vehicles or fuel or salaries, that is something that we would have to go directly to HRM Finance, who would then have to go to the province.
Yes, that would make sense. Yes.
Okay. And I'm not sure who. Okay, I see Jock. I'm not sure if you're able to weigh in any more on that. Just in case commissioners have questions on it directly. And if you missed it, the question is if we had more direct questions related to the discretionary here, the 3.3 or 3.6, the contract is with the province, who's then with HRM. If we wanted more information, we would have to go through who or whom to get that information as a commission.
I assume you're speaking to the RCMP contract with the province?
Or the budget, like the discretionary money itself.
Okay. Well, the contract is between the Government of Canada through the Minister of Public Safety and the province of Nova Scotia through the Minister of Justice. Yeah, you would have to go through the Contract Management Committee, and we have contacts there with the Department of Justice that we could put the board in touch with if you wish to have a conversation about that, for sure.
So in the future, and this is, I guess, for commission now, if we ever want more information, we would most likely have to send or probably make a motion for who. Would it be you, Jacques, to ask for that information, or the commission could directly contact that body to get information?
I don't think there's anything stopping the commission for asking for a meeting with you can either do it through myself, you could do it through the NSFM. The NSFM has a contract management committee that's been, the NSFM and the AMA, Nova Scotia, on the Department of Justice, and this is the Minister of Justice that stood up a contract management committee. I actually sit on that committee, at least for now. That committee has just restarted. It's sat idle for about 2 years. The Minister of Justice has recently reconstituted the committee, and it's now in the throes of populating it. We just had a meeting this past week. So you can either go through that committee, or you can write directly to the Director of Police and Services of the province of Nova Scotia. And I have all the contacts. If you want to have a direct conversation, I'm fine with that too. So you can either see me or directly with the Director of Police and Services of the province of Nova Scotia and the board.
Okay, great, thank you. So just for clarification for members, if we do, for any reason in the future, want to ask for more information on this item, we would have to go through, well, I'll say Jacques for now, but go through the management committee, and then they would present that information to us. And I'm not sure how, but that's.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you could easily just send me the questions you'd like to have answered, and I can submit them, or if you want to have a face-to-face meeting, you can certainly arrange that too.
Okay, great, thank you. So is that clear for folks? All right, thank you. Okay, great, thank you, Chief, for that. And we'll move on to the next item, which is 10.1.4, Halifax Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police Strategic Plan Updates. And we're starting with Chief Kinsella.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the Commission. So this is an update on the strategic plan. We have not had an update in the last little while. Prior to COVID-19, we provided updates on the strategic plan to the board on a quarterly basis. Due to the ongoing pandemic since March 2020, there have been adjustments to both the completion timelines and the outcomes to a number of the initiatives, as well as the associated reporting to the board. So for this month's submission, there was an information report submitted. There's 3 particular parts to it. And the first part is the strategic plan deliverables completed in years 19 and 20, and the deliverables completed in 2021. And then the last part is the 2021-2022 strategic plan dashboard with the progress percentages. So it is provided in report form. Most of the 19 to 21 deliverables that have been completed have been previously reported on. And having the report for your reference, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. There's a few items on this list, so I will go to commissioners if they have anything in particular they want to highlight on the information item. And yeah, Commissioner McDougall.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I do recall that when I look at the first item that's listed in the 2019-2020 completed strategic plan initiatives, first item is employee engagement working group implementation. I recall that there was some morale issues at one stage, and a working group was put together to address that. And I'm just not quite sure what has happened with that. Obviously ran into COVID a bit, and but I'm just curious to know if there was a plan that is being implemented or is underway right now to deal with some of that.
So thank you, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. The particular deliverable there was to create and implement the employee engagement working group, which we did. It is still operational under the leadership and direction of Inspector Stephanie Carlisle. Now, it has been waylaid a little bit through the COVID process, but they have been meeting recently to get back on track and to deal with some of the items that had initially been put forward to address just what you mentioned there. Morale, some of the things the employees would like to see to improve that or improve their working conditions. So it is continuing and still up and running, and as I mentioned, being led under Inspector Stephanie Carlisle.
Thank you. My next question refers to the hub assessment. I recall hearing some detailed information from Scotland, actually, at a conference where they talked about using the hub model. And I was really curious when I saw it in the strategic plan initially. So I'm just wondering what the status of that is, and has it been sort of put aside for now because of COVID? I mean, I don't think it's an inexpensive way to manage, but I'm just curious to know where that is now.
So thanks, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. Just for some context, Commissioner, some of the items on the strategic plan go back as far as 2015, and I wasn't here, but I do believe that this was one of the items that was initially talked about, and it was investigated, and it was looked at, and how do we deal with the hub model, and is that the model that's the appropriate model for HRM? And, you know, you'll probably recall it was research and development-based. It was quite academic at the time in the early stages. It has worked well in other areas of Canada and in the UK, as you mentioned. We currently are working on a safety and well-being plan with the Public Safety Advisor. It has a lot of the components of the hub model, where we work together with social agencies, housing, health, anyone that can come to the table to assist. We are also going through the reimagining of policing services, and what does that look like going forward, and how do we come together to meet the needs on a more global scale of the community. So well, we've determined that the hub model has some application in certain areas. We don't believe at this time that it is the exact model for HRM, but we are looking and continue to work towards something similar with the Public Safety Advisor in the GRIA office here in HRM. And there has been some setbacks due to COVID as well, but there are a number of plans and reports that are going forward to council now that involve a number of these issues. And I think we will be able to see some development moving forward on how do we work together to get the appropriate response, and that's going to best help out the community.
Thank you. My next question relates to the Sexualized Violence Prevention Awareness Campaign, and I'm familiar with what you did through the fall last year, and that there was a commitment that it wasn't just a one and done kind of campaign. And I'm just wondering if there was any follow-up or detail from the in-person debrief with partners as to, what was really successful or what you might want to not do again, that kind of.
So through you, Chair, and in answer to the Commissioner's question, so you're exactly right. It was not designed to be a one and done, and it has not been. It is actually an annual event that occurs, generally speaking, late August into September. We have connections throughout HRM with all the universities to make sure that we're, developing educational programs. We have social media around it. And that is being handled currently out of our Criminal Investigation Division and our SATE unit. So that work continues. There is also, on a lesser scale, things that happen during the year that also can relate to that, and we're constantly monitoring the sexualized violence environment to see where it fits or how we how and when we need to intervene. But certainly yearly, and a lot of it is done through social media, but we do have the connections with the universities. And COVID has played a bit of a role because going into the school year last year, I don't know about this year, we didn't have as many students in residence, and the bars weren't open as much and the nightlife wasn't running. So it's still on the table. It's still a program that we use. And is still available, and we will be looking at it again coming into the school year in September.
And my last point is not really a question, but just a very kind of interest in the priority response review, and looking forward to a report on that once it's completed. I think that's kind of an interesting initiative, and looking forward to hearing more about it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Blackburn?
No, I'm good. Thanks. Carol actually asked the question I was wondering about, and it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have some questions for the chief, and thanks to Carol for sort of starting this off on the sexualized violence prevention. So I take it there's some work has been done. I'm not familiar with what has, but I trust that it has. I guess what I'm wondering about specifically, when you talk about your collaboration space, Chief, you speak to the universities. Have you had any contact and subject matter experts from those agencies in the community working with women? The Adsum House folks, the YAWCA, Transition House Association, Bryony House, those folks are all subject matter experts as well. They deal with the outcomes of unprevented sexualized violence and domestic violence. So they have a perspective that they work with women who potentially could be in contact with them at the very early stages of some of these potential acts. And I guess I want to hear if you have had any work with them, and I would encourage you to as well look to those agencies as well that are not necessarily even within the HRM, because part of preventing sexualized violence and space, creating safety plans and in certain environments at the universities, can some of that contact that people might have, in particular, I'm speaking to the women's agencies, they might reach out or have an opportunity to reach out within their hometowns. They may be visiting students, and visiting students may not be as aware and or comfortable with reaching out to an agency here to work with them around what it might look like on safety planning and what it might look like on ways to move out of a circumstance that is creating these kinds of risks and trauma experiences. So there are many agencies around the province who are working in this field who could be of a great resource on that. So can you just comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. So through our SATE unit, the investigators that investigate sexualized violence, and our victim services branch, the branch that supports those individuals that find themselves in that circumstance, we have considerable collaboration and consultation with them, particularly Avalon and the YWCA. I know there is others. I can't say specifically each of the groups that you mentioned, but I know that we have extensive outreach with them and have done for many years. The other thing I think that it's important to remember is that we have a trauma-informed response. We are, regularly ensuring that that training is delivered to our members, both frontline, investigative, victim services, everyone involved. So the answer to your question is yes, we're quite engaged with community service and support groups, so we will continue to be moving forward. And I think as best we can, we continue to look for new ways and new training to serve those most vulnerable victims in our community.
Thank you. And while we're on that, the trauma-informed, enhanced trauma-informed response priority and plan, it talks to here about develop a report and recommendations for improvements and new opportunities for training. Has that report been developed?
So my understanding is that it has been. This is, again, one of the items that had been on the strategic plan since 2015. And what I can tell you is that we've trained 113 members in trauma-informed response, and we continue to provide the training. And it's a best practice, certainly. And not only do we do specific trauma-informed courses, but we also have components of it in all of our training. So our upcoming cadet class will get, kind of a foundation and a baseline in it. Investigators that are investigating full-time those types of offenses will get that training before they do it. And another interesting and important thing to mention is that we recently restructured our special victims unit and added a investigator and manager at the staff sergeant level to better supervise our sexual assault unit and provide the necessary support for investigators, while at the same time providing support for victims. And you may recall that we separated homicide out from SATE because of the importance and the vulnerabilities of the victims in each, to provide that extra level of supervision and investigative support at all levels. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would encourage you as well, and I don't know who you trained of those 113, but another layer, if you haven't given it any consideration, is your policymakers. policymakers need to have that insight on trauma-informed approaches around as well at hand when developing some of those. So I think if you haven't already done, I would encourage you. I do appreciate hearing some of the changes that you may have made at Victim Services. I'm not as fully up to speed on it. I just had a conversation with the chair the other day, saying that that it would be nice to have a presentation from them. So I look forward to seeing that come on the agenda as well. The last question I have, if I have to, am I okay for time? Do we have any time limits here?
It's funny. I don't think you really enforced that, but you're
Okay.
fine. You can keep going.
Okay, good. One more question around your external communications. Communications is a pet peeve of mine within all of the, not peeve, it's a area that I like to speak to throughout the municipal work that I do and we as a collective do. And it's around being current with our residents who are looking and being the receiving end of communication pieces. So I struggle sometimes with communications that come out with long diatribes of text, a long description of what it is that our people in our communities should be thinking about and doing, that they have to read. So many of us are glued and connected to, it's like an extension of ourselves, our social media platforms, our iPads, our phones, our internet experiences. And we need to be cognizant of what are they going to look at and digest quickly and get a message. So short videos, graphics, things that will connect quickly within a very short period of time, as opposed to a long written word. And I wonder, have our communications folks, do they focus any of their efforts in some of those areas? I've yet to see them, and maybe I'm just missing them and or not aware of maybe what's available out there. But as I see, a traffic safety week, something come out, it still looks like a whole bunch of words. There's nothing. We're raising a generation of short attention spans, and we need our young people and anyone who is using the internet to get quick messages that they could potentially ingest, because very few of them are reading long. One of the rules of the internet is don't write a lot of words, have something short, sweet, keep your message short, but get to the meat of it quickly. Maybe you could comment on that.
Sure, I can, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. I'll just take you back to having a trauma-informed view on policy.
Okay.
Just so you are aware, and I do appreciate your comments, you may know that we're doing a extensive policy revamp review currently. And we actually have staff dedicated to that policy review. And one of the staff members is actually level 2 trained in trauma-informed responses. So we have that lens on the policy, and we are actually applying it to all of our policies, not just as they relate to the Special Victims Unit, but also as they relate to response to other types of crimes where people may be traumatized. Could be a motor vehicle collision, could be a break and enter or a robbery, those kind of things. So appreciate the comments, and what I can tell you is that we're on it. We will continue to be and continue to work with our Victim Services Unit and certainly our Criminal Investigation Division to deliver on the most up-to-date training and informed response that we can. Just in regards to the communication strategy, we've put out a number of videos over the last little while. I'm going to get in touch with our Corporate Affairs Division and get some of them forwarded to you so you can have a view. Videos are great, but it is a resourcing issue. We don't have a videographer with HRP, and we do rely on volunteers to help us with that, and we are very grateful for that. So we'll continue to do that where we can. And the other piece in regards to the brevity and or length of communications that we do send out, we do a great number and, in my view, do a very good job out of our corporate affairs division, sending out tweets and reminders and those kind of things. So we do that on a regular basis. There are occasions where the community is looking for just a little bit more information, and sometimes our media releases or public notices need to be a little bit longer, just so we provide the appropriate information to them. And the other piece too, and you'll know well from your background in communications, it does prevent a lot of follow-up from the media if we can provide some of those anticipated details that they might be looking for. So very much appreciate your comments and happy to take any other questions.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple other points, but I don't want to prevent anyone else from asking. So if others do, I'll come back.
Any questions? I guess we'll go to Commissioner Thomas. I just see him in chat, so I'll assume that's a no. And for me, most of the comments have been brought forward. The only one that hasn't been talked about yet that I have a quick question on would be the Know Your Rights campaign. So I'm wondering what was the rollout, or what's the potential rollout for that piece, and any updates on the work that the advisory committee is doing.
Thanks, Chair, and a good question. So the Know Your Rights campaign from the HRP perspective came out of a follow-up commitment to the apology, and we have been working on that with the Department of Justice and our partners in policing, the Rcmp. And what we were looking at there is, and you know, COVID interrupted things a little bit, but beyond that, we were looking at a more provincial response to the Know Your Rights campaign. And we had been working and had some preliminary meetings with the Department of Justice and the Rcmp with the thought that, you know, not only would the public know their rights, but also the police would be well informed on theirs as well. We've done some of that work internally with our members through our fair and legitimate policing program that has been delivered at the front lines and through all of our supervisors, watch commanders, and NCOs. So we've done a fair bit of that work. To your specific question about Know Your Rights campaign more provincially, it is in progress, but there is more work to be done. We're looking at the Department of Justice as having the lead on that. And as I mentioned, there was some preliminary work done on that. I don't know how it ties into the committee that Deputy Chief McLean co-chairs, but I will follow up on that just to see if they have that on their agenda to do any work on the Know Your Rights campaign. But the other piece too is, if it's the will of the commission, we can certainly do one for HRM and then move forward with the program there and then share it more provincially. But the thought was collectively that we would have all stakeholders at the table, have the discussion to ensure that we had a very effective and well-accepted product. And there was also consultation to be had with the community on that got preempted a little bit by COVID.
Thanks, and I believe, and this is going back into my memory bank, so I could be incorrect, but I believe there was a motion from the commission on the specific piece around the Know Your Rights campaign for HRP to develop one, but it also could have had relation to the province. So I can't remember, and I'll have to go back, but there might be a motion that the commission passed in the past or previously that spoke about us wanting to establish a Know Your Rights campaign. So that also could be where that work came from, or that motion from the commission. But again, I'd have to go back and look through the asks from the commission. So you'll follow up with the provincial folks, and I'll look back in my records to see if there might be something outstanding that the commission asked for on that piece in particular.
Yes, Chair, that's correct. And then perhaps we can reconvene on it at the next agenda review.
Okay, great, thank you.
We're happy to move forward with it if that's the will of the board.
Okay, yeah, we'll follow up on that piece. And the other thing that Councilor Ken already mentioned is having that information from our victim services, and what we'll do is once our new members are on board, we'll put that as one of the first items, because I don't remember exactly how we do the I don't want to call it the intake. What is it? When new folks come, help me with the words, commissioners.
The orientation.
Oh yes, orientation. So I know that Carol, I believe you developed an orientation book for us a few years back. Is that correct? Or helped us with that?
It was really a PowerPoint presentation to kind of give a sense of what this role is.
Okay, so we'll have further discussion on that. But we're going to have new commissioners coming soon, so it might be good for us to think about having some type of orientation, and for some of us, reorientation, which would include presentations from individuals and business units, etc. So that's a side note, but as some of the comments mentioned around victim services and the trauma responses, I think it relates to making sure that we get that information at the commission level. All right, so that's it for me. And Commissioner Ken, I know you had some further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to just sort of piggyback again on the victim services aspect. Yeah, as a new counselor, I would like to sort of get some updates. So I know that the newer ones will come along, and it would be good information to have on victim services. Chief, I was glad to hear that you have recognized the importance of victim services for people, not just those in sexualized violence and or violence against women, and those that particular unit kind of has a focus on, because I have recently had the opportunity to speak to some of the residents who have had the impact of some recent deaths on our streets, and they're victimized by that, right? There's when their charge is laid, it wasn't a blatant accident, although in some cases it could have been, but these folks are struggling and they had no idea about victim services. And then at that point, I started to wonder, do we even have that service available within the unit again? So I really look forward to hearing from them and seeing if there's any way that as a board we can support some efforts to make sure that folks in our communities who are traumatized through crimes have the support they need. On the communications piece, I would like to extend an invitation, and I'm certainly extending it on behalf of me as a counselor, but as we are onboarding a new counselor communications person, and I've said this on within a number of departments, that I want you to see me as a partner in communications. We are connected to our community. We have a fairly significant, each of us have fairly significant databases. We have online newsletters, we have social media platforms, and one of the approaches that I want to take with this news person is to formulate some of these short clips that we can utilize on our sites, and if we can do that in collaboration with your team around crime prevention and around some of the things that we know might be of interest in coming out of your service, then I certainly hope that you, even if it's just me, but I'd be shocked if I didn't have others that were interested as well. But see us as an ally in those communications pieces, please. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Really appreciate the comments, and we're certainly here to help, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you both. So seeing no further comments on that. Yep, there's nothing in chat, nothing. We're just about at 2 o'clock, so I'm wondering if we just do a quick 5-minute break and then come back probably just about a minute or two or so minutes before 2 o'clock to allow Superintendent Chief Gray to say a couple remarks, and then we'll do a moment at 2 o'clock. So I wonder if that's okay with the commission, that we just take a quick 4 or 5 minute break, and then we'll come back and allow Chief Gray to say some words.
Yeah, and we still have to get Chief Gray's strategic plan update as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't
okay.
want to start that before that came. So we'll just do a quick minute or so pause, and then we'll come back and we'll do our moment of silence for 2 o'clock.
I would ask everyone to not leave the meeting, please. Just please stay in this meeting, and we will take the slide off when we're coming back. We'll try to come back at 3 minutes to 2 o'clock.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Smith, I believe that you have your mic and video back.
Yep, okay, great, thank you. So just before we hit 2 o'clock, I would like to pass it to Chief Gray to just give some quick words on the horrific events that happened on April 2020 in our province. And, we, as a commission, on behalf of the commission, we thank all of the members of service who responded that day, and And we also keep in our thoughts and prayers the families who dealt with this devastation at that time. And Chief Gray, I believe you want to share some words before we hit the moment of silence.
Thank you, Chair. The devastating incidents of April 2020 in our beautiful province have had a profound and far-reaching effect. The gunman's actions were directed at innocent people, and no one has felt this more than the families of the victims. Their lives have changed in ways that most of us will never understand, and our hearts are with them during this difficult time. Thank you to the Commission, through you, Chair, for joining all of our Rcmp members and staff today, including in observing a moment of silence to honor the victims, including our own Constable Heidi Stevenson, and of course their families. This moment of silence is a remembrance for everyone we lost and a tribute to their memory.
Thank you all. Hard to believe it's been a year. So going back to our agenda, we're passing it to Chief Gray to give the update on the Rcmp strategic plan.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, you see our information report that we provided. As you can see, we've aligned our key deliverables and our priorities with HRM this year. In the past years, Halifax District has presented the annual performance plan, which is an Rcmp process and mechanism. And this year, even though Halifax District still has to adhere to the provincial APP, we tried to align our district priorities better with the HRM. We're into month 1 of this 1-year strategic plan, so the updates aren't shown on the document. However, will be included on future reporting. We kept the strategic plan for a year specifically because of COVID, and we felt that we could readdress the initiatives and see if we had to better align them after the year. And so I'll just highlight some of the higher level subjects, obviously within communities. We have a number of different initiatives under there. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, you can bring them forward. Service excellence, how do we ensure service excellence, but to focus on the training and the development of our people, recruiting a diverse cadre, not by chance, but strategically and with a strategic focus. With the effects of COVID on our training opportunities, we're developing a more rigid mentor program. The Rcmp has a international and national experience. Many of our members in the district are accomplished in a wide variety of expertise. So we'll be better leveraging this to develop our people. In regards to some of our other, communication, of course, creating a new internal and external communication strategy. Some of the counselors, some of the commissioners, pardon me, who are counselors are aware of some of the steps that we're taking in that regard. And again, after a month in or after our first quarter, there'll be updates on this document, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Starting with Commissioner Kent, anything on your end?
I just want to say how pleased I am to see the communications. We have talked, Janice and I've talked before on communication pieces, so that's really self-explanatory. I do look forward to hearing a little bit more detail when you come forward on updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas? Great. Commissioner Blackburn?
No, just wanted to echo what Commissioner Kent said, and also to thank Rcmp and Janice in particular and her team for the tour of the center on Garland Avenue there last week. Had an amazing session with some of the newer counselors, and looking forward to that bit of personal communication continuing. It was much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDougall?
I just have one question. I heard Janice mention that there is communication with counselors. And I'm wondering if commissioners could be part of that too. Just not quite sure if it's specific to council work, but if it aligns at all in terms with community, it would be good to share that with everyone.
Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, absolutely, Commissioner McDougall. So we're trying, again, a leveraged or a measurable approach initially. And of course, because we do have some new counselors on council, we did have a lunch and learn, so to speak. As you know, we had an Rcmp 101 session with many who were invited to attend. And this is our next level to provide some background and education in regards to the Rcmp in the district as well as in the province and nationally. And of course, absolutely, the commissioners are also included in that, and you will be included very soon in regards to next steps.
I just want to mention that the Rcmp 101 that we participated in, I think we're talking about the same thing, it was an online. It was brilliant. It really was an excellent explanation of all the different services and how people work together or different ways, I was really impressed with that.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My question was related to the communications piece, which again, thank you for the many emails that we get, but also it's very important for us to be connected, and that's what we've asked for, and I'm thankful that's happening. The only other one, just out of curiosity, is the formal job shadowing plan. So would that be related to new members coming on board, or would it be youth? Would it be members of the public who are interested in RCMP? How do you envision that looking?
Thank you for your question, and for you to the board. So a couple of layers to that. We completed a thorough succession plan for the entire district. Every single Rcmp member was discussed at different levels of supervision in regards to their wants, needs, training, career aspirations. And through that exercise, we were able to identify a number of opportunities, I would say, in regards to providing a more fulsome mentorship program in the district, and also providing opportunities. So this is more to our police officers and staff to be provided with opportunities to work in different areas, Again, we're very fortunate in the RCMP to have a number of different areas of expertise that require a significant amount of training and funds. And so sometimes providing our members with an opportunity to try something first, to actually before they make that leap, it benefits all of us, and it also provides a better foundation for when they do actually take that step into a more specialized area. We have significant leadership in this district, as you know, and we're just trying to leverage that a little bit more with a more structured mentorship program. I'm sure we all know that having a mentor or somebody to lead and guide us is sometimes half the battle when it comes to finding a path.
Great, that's very helpful. So thank you. That's it for me. And I'm not seeing anyone else with comments. So thank you, Chief, for giving us that update. And we're moving on to the next item. There's no motions attached to this. These are just verbal updates with information reports as well. So going to the next item, which is 10.146, Independent Legal Counsel for Board of Police Commissioners. We do have a motion that's now for our consideration, which we'll bring forward. We have a quick presentation that will come about this report, since it was a report being asked from the commission, and then we'll go into discussion.
What are we doing with the request for board for police commissioners to support redirection?
Sorry, skipping ahead. So thank you, Chair or Vice Chair, for doing that. But Catherine, you're good for a moment. So thanks for being ready. And I know if I didn't deal with this, Chief Gray would have some words for me. So we're actually on 10.1.5, Royal Canadian Mounted Police request for Board of Police Commissioners to support redirection of funds. So we do have a letter from the Chief that was attached to the agenda for folks' information, for further information. So Chief Gray, do you want to give a quick overview of what the ask is for? And then I guess we're going to have a discussion on how we move this forward formally.
Thank you. And through you, Chair. So I forwarded the relevant documentation and requests. With the letter also came previous Board of Police Commission minutes. The request of the Board of Police Commissioners is to support the next steps in the funding request. The original funding model was approved by the board in February 2018, and I'm seeking your support to alter the model to have the funding associated to the 2 analyst positions be directly included in the RCMP budgets instead of HRPs. There have been a number of challenges with the staffing process, and as such, we've decided to cease the process and use the RCMP Public Service Employee or PSE process instead. The support of the Board of Police Commissioners would simply mean that the RCMP can work with HRI and Finance to properly align the funding from the HRP to RCMP.
Great, quick and concise. So before we get comments from commissioners, I'm just wondering if Chief Kinsella, if you could give a quick, so it's my understanding that our HRP has no concerns with this reallocation, but it'd be good to hear from you if there's anything you be willing to share, or if you support the request. And I'm not sure on the process of unmuting yourself on the phone.
Chair, I'm just, I think I'm unmuted now. I'm just confirming. Yep. You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I did hear the question, and through you to the commission. Yeah, I've had discussions with Chief Superintendent Gray on this particular topic, and we've also discussed it with the command team here at HRP. Initially, when these positions were brought to HRM, they were intended to be positions staffing RCMP areas. So we don't have any issue with the ask. It's quite reasonable on behalf of the Chief Superintendent, and thank you for asking.
Great, thank you. All right, commissioners, if you have any comments, if you just want to put your hand up if you have a comment, but I won't go through roll call at the moment. So nobody on my screen that I can see has a comment. The only question that I have for you, Chief Gray, is related to these positions, this being moved over to the RCMP budget, which would then mean that this would be administered through your discretionary, or would be administered through the contract with the province?
Thank you, and it is a good question, and currently it has not been formalized how that would be done. However, as the PSE, so the Public Service Employee Process, is done provincially, so it's my understanding that our H Division Finance, who's been fully briefed, will be working with DOJ in regards to how those monies are allocated.
Right. So, and really, it would be the allocation that comes from the province would not come to HRP. It would just come to your budget. So, HRP is not losing funding. It's just now being allocated to.
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was clear for folks. All right. So there's no comment. So now the question then becomes, and this is where I might rely on Mr. Ward or Jacques on formalizing this piece. So do we as the commission need to make a motion to send this letter to the province? Do we need to send this letter to the budget committee? Because this would mean changing the approved budget from HRP that we previously approved to changing it to the request here. So what is the way to formalize this ask on our end?
Chair, through you, the direction that we received previously was simply a notification or letter, a memo to HRM Finance, basically articulating that we made this presentation. It was supported by HRP, and you and the board supported it.
Okay. So, Jacques, I see you popped up. Any further comments at all?
No, I think Janice has laid it out properly. So yeah, just send a letter off to myself or to Jane Fraser, our CFO, basically indicating your support for that, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. So how about as a motion, the Board of Police Commissioners accepts and receives in Marty and clerk help with this wording. Board of Police Commissioners accepts and receives the information provided by the RCMP and support the request, something along those lines.
I would move that.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Blackburn, seconded by Commissioner McDougall. Or are you seconding it? Or do you have a comment? Okay, so seconded by Commissioner McDougall. So the wording, I'm just wondering if that wording is fine. Do we need to say and forward the letter? Just making sure that we get that wording right. Marty?
Yeah, I think that perhaps we can get Ian to put something up there, but so long as it says that you're referring it, that you've received it and that you support it, and you want to indicate that to Jacques and the Director of Finance, I think that's all you need.
Okay.
Perhaps if Ian's got something, or
Yes, give me two. I'll post something in the chat here in 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah. I know your fingers are working away. Jacques?
Yeah, once we receive it, we'll start out the process from there. If we need to take it to the council or something, we will. But at this point, this may not be necessary, but we'll sort that out once we get it.
Okay. and while Ian is typing away again for clarification, because I had some questions on this, these are not new positions. These are positions that were already there, and I believe one needs to be filled. One is currently already filled. So these are not new positions. These are ongoing positions that have already been existing. And the motion is that the Board of Police Commissioners receive the letter contained in item 10.1.5 as information and endorse the request that Halifax District Royal Canadian Mounted Police redirect the funds from the Halifax Regional Police budget to the Halifax District Royal Canadian Mounted Police to allow for the staffing of the current 2 criminal analysts as Rcmp public service employees. A lot better than what I wrote.
That'll work. You deliver that to Jacques and Jane Fraser, and you're away.
Great. So then allow for staffing, and I guess at the end, and forward to CAO in finance.
Yeah, they'll send it to me and we're good. I mean, timing's at the essence. We're putting together the final budgets for council's consideration on May 4th. So sooner we get it, we can basically reflect that in the budget documents, and the council will end up approving the restated budget.
Okay, great. And yep, Commissioner McDougall.
I'm just wondering if we need to add the word "to," so that it reads that the Board of Police Commissioners received the letter contained in item 10.1.5 as information and endorse the request. To endorse the request, because the way it reads now, it looks like the Halifax District Rcmp is redirecting the funds. It's actually the other way around, isn't it?
Okay, that seems like a friendly amendment to me.
Yeah, as the mover, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
It should be to redirect instead of redirect.
To redirect, right.
Okay, so
to redirect the funds.
So item 10.1.5 as information and to endorse the request.
No, and endorse the request of the Halifax District Royal Canadian Mounted Police to redirect the funds.
Okay, to redirect the funds. All right, got you.
So they're not redirecting their own funds.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're good. If there's no further comments from, Commissioner Ken, I see you're off mute. Any comments?
Sorry, no.
Okay, great. Commissioner Blackburn?
All good, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas, anything from you? All right, great, you're good. So seeing no further comments, call for the question on the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you all. So actually moving to the next item, which is 10.1.6, Independent Legal Counsel for Board of Police Commissioners. We have a quick overview of the report and then a motion afterwards. So now is your chance to shine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So this report arises from a request made to staff back in July of last year to consider and provide an opinion on whether the board should or shouldn't have its access to its own legal counsel separate to that provided through HRM. And there were a few questions in that motion that we've been asked to consider, and I hope that the report I've provided answers those questions, but I'll give you a brief overview here just to get the discussion started. As you'd all be aware, the current practice is that any legal advice that's provided to the board is done through HRM Legal Services, and that includes attendance at all the meetings to provide procedural advice, as well as any additional legal issues that may come up either in a meeting or between meetings. And this report looks at whether there should be, either in addition or instead of that, independent legal counsel available for the board. And of the three questions that were posed in the motion, I think sort of the meatiest and the biggest is whether there's any conflict of interest presented by HRM Legal Services providing legal advice to the board. And the conclusion that we drew in the report is that there is no legal conflict presented by HRM providing this legal advice. The reason for that is that HRM Legal Services does not act for HRP or for any individual member of staff. Instead, it is always our responsibility to act in the, considering that our overall client is HRM itself. And it would be very rare that there would be a true diversion of interests between HRM itself and the board. If the very, very rare case were to come up, there were, for example, a legal dispute between the board itself, then HRM Legal Services would be required to recuse itself. But in most cases, it's very unlikely that there would be any true legal conflict of interest that would present between the board and HRM. However, we do recognize that it's not only important that there be no bias, it's also important that there be no appearance of bias, and that the board not only has to be independent, it has to appear to be independent to its public. And that means that there may be cases where, although there is no true legal conflict of interest, it may appear to the public that there is a perceived conflict of interest caused by having advice being provided by the same lawyers to the board as providing that advice to HRP or to HRM. And in those cases, it may be that the board may legitimately want to seek some sort of independent legal counsel. And in terms of the question of whether the board can seek that sort of independent legal counsel, the Police Act doesn't specifically address that question, but there's really nothing to prevent it, and it certainly seems in keeping with its role and being able, its mandate to fulfill its duties, that it should be provided with any necessary resources to do so. And in terms of the question of how that can happen going forward, there's really two potential ways that could happen. One would be that the board retain permanent independent legal counsel who had attended every meeting. This is not recommended by staff. It's likely to cause significant financial waste because it'd be, an unusual case that there would be a question arise at a meeting unexpectedly that would need to be considered. And HRM Legal Services has the expertise necessary to weigh in on procedural questions, for example, and most, less controversial questions. So what our recommendation is that the board consider going forward that it access sort of ad hoc legal counsel where required. It could do so by a motion requesting that independent legal counsel be provided, and then it could be approved either, depending on the request, could be approved by either the municipal solicitor or the CAO or council. So that essentially is an overview of my report, but if there's any questions that are arising from that, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Perhaps, Chair, just to add before any questions, is just to point out again that, one of the confusing things that happens here sometimes in the report is that Nova Scotia has a different model of providing police than other provinces. And in other provinces, police report directly to a police commission, which is independent, wholly independent of the municipality. And the Police Act here provides a different sort of model where council is responsible ultimately for policing, and council can provide policing in different ways. They can provide it through contract with the Rcmp, they can provide it by providing a police department, or some combination of the two, like is done here. And to that extent, if you look at the powers, the police commission in many respects is answerable to council. There are, however, though, some statutory functions that the police commission has that council cannot, that are not council's. They're the commission's itself, although council can give the commission additional functions. So the client ultimately here for legal services is the municipality. And by the municipality, that's not the police. And to some extent, even though they work very closely with the CAO, it's really council itself is who they're answerable to. So as Catherine said, if you're looking at conflict, real legal conflict, to the extent that there's a conflict between counsel and the commission, would be very rare. Okay, and in fact, one might argue that the counselors themselves in that instance who sit on the commission could be in a conflict position. So that's not really the situation. The situation is more likely in two occasions. One where there's a perception by the commission that there's a conflict, when in fact there isn't, but the perception is real. And the other one has got nothing to do with conflict. You get situations as a practical matter. The law is not always certain. We try to make it sound like it's certain, but there's a lot of gray in the law. And as you know, there was a former municipal solicitor here. I think what he said was, he said, 2 lawyers, 3 opinions, right? So there are times when the commission itself, I think, when the law is not entirely clear, when the commission would want to have a second opinion based from what they get from solicitor services. So that's an open question. But in most cases, I think it's Kathy's, in most cases, you've got a situation where there are clear advantages in the model that's being used now, and the clear advantages of that, I would suggest, as Catherine indicated, are most of the issues that come up at these meetings are procedural issues, right? And the rules for counsel are the same rules as they are for the commission, right? And so legal services got a lot of experience in that area. The other thing legal services have is, of course, they work very closely with all these different entities within the municipality, be it the clerk's office, be it the CAO's office, be it HRP. So in many instances that can facilitate things, right? So as we see it, it's just in those, we see it as a situation where that the commission should have the option, right? When the commission thinks it's required, right? But we don't think that that's an everyday occurrence. We don't think it's an every meeting occurrence, right? But so long as there's an off-ramp there for the commission, that if they need that additional option, that it's there for them. So that's basically Catherine's conclusion in the report there. And I guess that's about all I would have to say about it.
Thank you both, Catherine and Mardi, for that overview. So we do have a motion that was presented by staff on this that we can consider as is, or we can make amendments if needed, or not accept it. So the motion is that the Board of Police Commissioners endorse the use of occasional ad hoc independent legal advice as required by way of motion at the meeting where the needs arise. This may be requested this may be requested of either the municipal solicitor, CAO, or regional counsel, depending on the need for funding and/or budget approval. So that is a motion that we can consider. Before I ask anyone to put that on the floor, I'll get questions from the board, and then we can talk about the motions.
Mr. Chair, are we supposed to be able to see that?
So that's
Where are
on.
you seeing that?
Oh, you came in. You know what? You came in a little, so you wouldn't see it. It's in the. I'll put it in the chat again, or it might even already be in the chat again. But it was in the beginning of the meeting. But you came in. You came in just after.
Yeah, I think I'm not seeing it. I'd like to put it on the floor, but I'd like to see what I'm going to move first.
Right.
I heard you, but I'd like to read it.
Yeah.
And I am. I'll just. Is there a way to put it up?
Well, we can get the clerk. Could the clerk put it in the chat?
Oh, okay.
There we go.
It got posted twice.
Okay, there we go. So I'd like to move that, Mr. Chair.
Sounds good.
Is anybody want to second it?
Commissioner McDougall second, moved by Commissioner Kent. You have any comments at all, Commissioner Kent?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I really do believe this is the most fiscally responsible choice. I agree with the perspective. I've been in a number of agencies and asked these same kinds of questions around the perception is sometimes the most gray. But I think this is the way to go. I really do.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Blackburn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I agree. It's good to have this option, but I think has been pointed out in the report and by Mr. Ward that, you know, in these meetings, the vast majority of times that we have to lean on legal counsel, it's for procedural business. And, you know, our in-house lawyers know AO1 inside, outside, upside down. So I'm quite comfortable with the path we're taking with this and support the motion on the table. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner McDougall.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that we have an option, and I do understand that it's fiscally responsible of us not to hire a lawyer to sit in with every meeting and provide the same kind of advice that perhaps one of the three lawyers could provide to us that we could call on, Catherine, Marty, John. But I just think having the option is really good in just in case, you never know.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas? Okay, great, thank you. So the two questions. So this motion originally came from me. So one, thank you to everyone, you know, Catherine and Marty and whoever else might have contributed to the report. A lot of helpful information, and you know, being able to reference different aspects of the Provincial Police Act and our handbook, and even what's happening in other provinces was very useful. The question I had was, you know, understanding Ontario's police commission, which is its own world. When I mean that's its own beast. Thinking of British Columbia though, because I'm not familiar with their model. Is their model similar to Ontario's model, where it's its own? It acts as almost its own body, the police commission?
It's been a while since I looked at their act, but my understanding is yes, that they're a lot closer to the Ontario model than they would be to ours.
Okay. Okay, great. So the, you know, when we looked at this and, you know, speaking to folks about the ask and the report and you know, there were people who believe that we should have somebody who sits on the board at the board meetings, every meeting, to make sure there's no perceived conflict of interest. And I'm not sure if we're there yet, and I don't know if we'll ever get there. But you know, really thinking about this more, and also seeing the financial implications of doing that, understanding that we might not even use those folks, could be concerning, especially at this time when we're trying to be as careful as we can with the budget. So, you know, I support the motion as it is today, really to give us that power to hire if needed. So really it comes down to two questions. Is one, do we need to attach to this motion to ask council for more funding in the commission budget? Because that is something that we have to consider, understanding how much it would cost for legal counsel. And the other one, and this might be a question for the future, if an issue was to arise at a meeting, do we then ask for that opinion? So say whatever it might be, I'm just making up a situation, say that we don't agree with advice that came from our legal counsel. Do we then say we defer an item and get that opinion from this outside counsel and then come back to the item at another date? Or yeah, so I'm just wondering the logistics of how we would deal with issues in the moment. If there are reports or if there are motions, obviously we could probably go to that legal counsel, say, hey, can you give us opinion? But in the moments at board meetings, what is logistically, how could we make that connection to the legal counsel?
Well, I think the practical thing is exactly what you said. I think that you would, you would, there'd be debate, there'd be discussion, you would defer the item pending the receipt of an independent legal opinion, right?
Okay. So the question now becomes, do we need to also add to this motion to request that counsel, and I don't want to make up a number because I don't even know where to start, but do we request that counsel put money in the budget and the budget cycle for how do we, because we don't have enough in our budget. I think we have maybe $10,000 or $12,000 in our budget in total for the year. So how do we formalize wanting to move to a place where we can do this?
Well, I think that the way we tried to formulate the motion, because we don't know how often it's going to happen, right?
Right.
As Carol says, who knows, right? So we put the second part of the motion in so that if the commission wants an opinion, it would simply, refer to really to Jacques basically for the funding for it, And I don't anticipate that funding at that point, when the commission asks for an opinion, that's going to be, I don't want to speak for Jacques more than that, but I anticipate that type of request would be received properly and arrangements made for funding at that time, right? As opposed to trying to pick a specific figure or anticipate what might be there, Indeed, if funding ever became an issue with respect to that, I'm sure then it would come back to the board and board could make some other kind of motion to the council, right?
Right. Okay. Commissioner Kent?
As a practical matter. Sorry.
No, that's okay, Martin. You finish it. Do you have more that you want to add to that? No. I think Martin is right. I've been on boards that just created a scenario where you had to have it. And I think in the report, Catherine, that it said there was something that noted based on 150 an hour and there was an allotment of 500 or something. Like, I don't think we're talking tens of thousands. I think I think the potential for it is probably minuscule possibility. If I could ask, Martin, you've been around quite a while. I don't know how long you've been supporting this commission, but how many instances can you recall where this kind of situation could go? Now, having said that, we've got some pretty contentious things potentially coming along, and we don't know where this could land. At any time, this could happen. But I think that I don't want to. To me, this is shooting in the dark kind of thing. It's like we could potentially develop scenarios for a ton of different things. It could be on a motion. It could be just on a position that has been taken in the past, and we need to change. I don't know, but I think it would be very hard to project an amount.
If this helps, as Catherine says in the report, as lawyers, we have professional obligations, period. Quite apart from any of this, to recognize, identify conflicts and step back from them and take things. So that's why the option here benefits legal services too, in the sense that, we know, when we give our legal opinion, you don't have to be, you don't have to worry that you're absolutely tied to it, Right. We have the option, we can give it to you freely and you could say, we take that or we want another opinion. So in that sense, it helps us in our operations. But to be honest with you, if you go back to the history of this, the board has become much more active in the last 5 years in terms of its oversight of governments, which has been really an excellent thing. So I can assure you that for the first 10 years I was here, there was not a chance this would ever come. I think now there is, because some of the issues now have got so much public attention, right? That there may be the potential here for this, and that's why I think it's a good option, right? Will it happen? I don't know, but I think it's good to have the option.
Commissioner Kent, good?
Thanks.
Okay, great. So as we move forward, this motion says that we could ask for the resources if needed. Maybe in the future, we already passed this budget, but maybe for next budget, we'll keep in mind to, and again, maybe as we go and next budget, we can have these discussions internally, and even me just doing back of the napkin math, if we were to meet in the middle from that $150 to $500 an hour, and I just said $250 for $250 an hour for a duration of the meetings, like $1,000 or so on meeting. So that would just be for meeting itself, not considering reviewing documents and et cetera beforehand. So it could be up to $2,000 for a call if we were to do this. So not knowing that number, it would be difficult for us to kind of try to put something right now to say. So I support the motion, and as we go forward, we'll figure out a more formal way to have it in there. And part of my role as chair and whoever's in the future is we do have some oversight on our budget as the commission. So I think it would be important that we do put money in the budget so that the chair, with the request and support of the commission, is able to make that request on the board's behalf rather than having to go to those folks. So that's a discussion for future. We're here today, and we'll take it as we go. But I do thank the work that's been done and the commission on the questions, and I'll call for the question on the motion.
Question.
All right, question's been called. All those in favor, say aye.
Favor.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Seeing none, thank you so much, Captain Martin, or Marty Martin, whatever we want to call you. Appreciate all your work.
Just don't call him late for supper.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on to 10.2.1, the BOPC committee on defunding the police, which I believe it has Commissioner McDougall's name on it, but I think okay. Anyway, I'll give a quick update, and feel free to jump in, Chair or Lisa, if needed. So this last week, we had a meeting with Al and some of the members who were supporting the work, Al Jones, supporting the work for the funding the police committee. And really the outstanding questions were the logistics of the community engagement pieces, which she has taken back to her group, and they're gonna let us know on how that's gonna work. So still not set in stone, but most likely there'll be smaller engagements with targeted groups, represented groups, and then there'd be one, possibly two larger public meetings that anyone could attend and give feedback and comments. These will all be virtual. The smaller groups might be maybe in person, and we, with the budget, we would provide any type of resources, if that's snacks or transportation or childcare, as we said in the terms of reference. We spoke about the honorariums for members who are our first voice within that, and that's being taken back to the committee to kind of figure out what that number would be for those members. And the agreement was it would be for the members who are first voice, not the ones who are working in positions or have jobs. Would be those who don't have the resources and want to honor their time. The other one was the survey, which was sent to us, the draft survey, which was sent to us as a commission for comments, and we'll be sending, if there's any comments, we'll be sending that back to them to review, and hopefully we'll get the survey out sooner than later. And I think that was it. And the only other piece is the timeline. Once we're able to figure out the logistics of the meetings and et cetera, I believe we said end of June. Was it end of June? Yes, end of June to have the final the final report, recommendations, whatever comes out of the committee's work would come back to the commission. So happy to answer any questions, and Commissioner McDougall and Commissioner Blackburn are here to answer any questions as well. And Commissioner Kent, I see your hand up.
Can you skip me for a second and I'll come back?
Yep, that's fine. Commissioner Blackburn.
No, I think that just about covered it. We do have a slate of committee members that have been submitted as well. That's probably the only other piece that I know that there's been some interest in, who's going to make up the committee. So a slate has been decided upon, and they've got a path ahead of them, and I think they're in good shape to get the job done and get the report in by the end of June. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and that's a good point too. So we're also looking at how to make sure that the public can see the information that's coming from the committee, and we're not sure. We have to have this discussion with Jacques and me and Clerk Ian, in Commissioner McDougall, who vice chair and who's supporting the work as well, because we want to make sure that all this information is easily accessible to the public. And it might be similar to what we've seen with the commemoration of Edward Cornwallis Committee, where they had their own landing page that spoke about when the meetings were and the terms of reference, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not really sure how that's going to look, but that information, we will make that information public as soon as we have logistics of how we're going to do that. And yeah, it should be very soon when we're able to share that. I'm not sure, Commissioner McDougall, you had any further comments at all?
No, I don't. You explained it completely. And thanks, Lisa, for adding the point about the committee that was recruited. So it's good.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Kent. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I had to take that call. It was important.
No worries. No worries.
So I do have, I realized a few minutes ago that I didn't get around to responding on the email that you sent out, Mr. Chair, on the survey.
That's fine. Yep.
So do you want me to do that through email, or can I just ask the question here?
No, if you have comments and you wanted we have end of the day today, so you can.
Okay, so I'll send it off. Okay,
yep.
Sounds good. I just wanted to make sure I had that opportunity.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
No, otherwise, thank you for the update.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Commissioner Thomas, any further comments from you at all? Okay, great. Thank you. So moving on from that item, going to Commissioner McDougall on the Canadian Association of Police Governance and Governance Summit. There is a information item attached. So if you want to just refer members to that, you can, but more than happy to, if you want to present any information, you can as well.
I guess the only thing I would say is that the national organization works to provide any kind of support and training for boards across the country, regardless of the level of whatever their police act says, whatever, tries to find common areas where board members can learn more about their role and be able to perform their responsibilities as to the best of their ability. So, there are two governance summits that are being offered, and this is something different in its pandemic kind of response, because these used to be in person. Two sessions, one at the end of April, and giving board members an opportunity to, it's kind of a governance 101, a real kind of in-depth opportunity to immerse themselves, along with some police board leaders from across the country. My understanding is there'll be somebody from Toronto, somebody from Vancouver, from Ottawa, from Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton. So it'd be an opportunity to learn, to dialogue, that kind of thing. And then in June, a session at the end of the month to kind of work on how you develop policies around body-worn cameras. And some commissions, boards across the country are farther ahead on this than others, but this is an opportunity for those who are looking for that information. So the fee that was quoted to us allows 10 people to sign up for these. So once we pay the fee, the registration fee, we can have 10 people join in, and they're always by Zoom. There's about 3-hour sessions, and so that's kind of a bit of the background. And I think you were bringing it forward today, Lindell, so that members could say if they're interested, and we can decide if we're going to participate. I will say that I did have information from Commissioner Kent's office saying she was very interested in participating. I am too. I think it's always a good opportunity to learn. So I think that's it for me.
Thanks. So I put the potential motion, and we'll add you, Commissioner McDougall, to it. But the motion would be that the Board of Police Commissioners approve Councillor Kent and Councillor McDougall to attend the Canadian Association of Police Government Summit to be held virtually on April 27th and June 30th, 2021, on behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, Halifax Region Municipality.
Could I also ask you to add, if we're naming us, we can add in an additional 8 people. So, and just make that point in the motion that as well to include an additional 8 people who might be interested. So,
Right.
you know, it could be staff, it could be Andrea, it could be Ian, for instance, it could be somebody from HRP. There's a possibility for anyone we want to give that opportunity to.
So commissioners approve Councillor Kent, Councillor McDougall, or Commissioner Kent. It should be Commissioner Kent just to make it consistent. Commissioner Kent, Commissioner McDougall, and 8 other designates, or 8 other participants. What makes sense? Participants? Or I can't, you're on mute.
Right, yes, participants.
Okay.
Mr.
So-
Chair, do we even need to name anybody if we just say approve up to 8 participants representing the Board of Police Commissioners?
What we're just trying to do is formalize a process. So,
Yes.
so really we don't. So you're right, but we're just trying to formalize a process for commissioners, and it won't stop anyone else on the commission from attending. So let's just, make sure that's right. But we're just trying to formalize that when this comes, that there's like a kind of like FCM, when a counselor is going to attend, a motion comes to council.
Okay, I see.
Right. So really, it's just making it formal. But you're right. We don't need to name. But we thought those who are interested, just putting them there, and if others want.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion would then would read for clerks that the Board of Police Commissioners approve Commissioner Kent, Commissioner McDougall, and 8 other participants to attend the Canadian Association of Police Governance Summit to be held virtually on April 27th and June 30th, 2021, on behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners, Halifax Region Municipality. That work? Okay. Yep.
I just want to make a comment that I think it is good to name people, because one of the things that I think it's really important for us to do, I don't know if you do this at council, but is to have somebody report on whatever we've attended, because we're actually paying to do this. And we should say it was a good session, or we learned this, or whatever. It's a way of reporting back.
Great. No, I agree. So the motion is in the chat. Nothing has changed about it. Not seeing any further comments from commissioners. So I'll just ask if someone will call for the question.
Question.
Great. Question's been called. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. Thank you. So that carries, and we'll get that going and look forward to hopefully attending on the 27th as well, in the 30th. So moving on to 10.3.1 Management Employee Relations Committee. So Chief, I'm gonna ask if you can support me on this, because I did just receive the minutes that you sent, or the draft minutes. So thank you from that meeting. So a meeting was held on April 8th on the employment. Oh my goodness, the Management Employee Relations Committee. I had a brain freeze just now. So there was a couple items that were mentioned, and the only one that I'm going to mention now, and Chief, I'm not sure if you want to speak on some of the other items, because I'm just not sure exactly what, because these are employee management relations, so some of these items are sensitive. But one that I will mention is that the Journey to Change program, we got an update on that from Superintendent Dean Simmons, and said that the reception from that has been great internally, and that they extended the invitation to members of the union who accepted that invitation, and will work to attend as best they can, depending on their availability. Yeah, that's it in terms of something easy to report on. Chief Costello, I'm not sure if you want to speak on the other items or give a high-level brief on that.
Chair, through you and to the commission, I don't have too much to add. My understanding is the bulk of the rest of the conversation was operational in nature. I do know that there was quite a bit of dialogue around staffing, and as I understand, it was a good dialogue. I wasn't there for the meeting itself due to other commitments, but I have read the minutes, and I think you covered it off to the extent that you could.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So with that being said, and I don't know if this actually is a great question. So the meeting minutes from these, should we also send these to the commission for their information? Would that be an issue at all, you think, Chief?
Chair, I think it might be beneficial for you and I to have a quick conversation about that, maybe at agenda setting.
Yeah, let's do that, because as mentioned, some of the stuff we can't speak about because it was operational and et cetera, and having to do with members and whatnot. But there might be a role in sharing some of this information with the commission. So we'll have that discussion as the time goes. So thank you for that support, Chief, on that. Next is, I believe, the update. I lost my agenda again, so many screens. Next is the updates from both chiefs, and we'll start with Chief Costello.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm just confirming that I'm off mute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Just a couple quick notes on recognition. Many might know that last week was National Public Telecommunicators Week. We highlighted the important role that our emergency response communicators play when a crisis occurs, and they do an outstanding job day in and day out, and many times behind the scenes.
This week is National Volunteer Week, and we thank all the individuals who dedicate their time to our police service and assist with programs including our youth program, Citizens on Patrol, and Victim Services, as well as the many HRP employees who give back by volunteering within our service and within our community organizations. And I'd like to recognize all those members here today. A couple notable themes this month. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and just commenting on the conversation that we had earlier and the importance of dealing with victims in a trauma-informed way and doing all we can for them. And April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And as far as traffic goes, because it is always a leading topic, the road safety theme this month is speeding and aggressive driving, and throughout the month of April, HRP social media platforms have been featuring and will continue to feature educational messages about the risks of aggressive driving and reminders for motorists to slow down. We will also share any safety posts from the city or other partnering organizations. And just of note, members of the HRP traffic unit continue to enforce the rules of the road, and on April 7th issued 32 summary offense tickets to drivers throughout our region, and then again on April 13th issued another 30, primarily for speeding and distracted driving. And we've had a special focus over the last number of months on stunting. And as always, we encourage citizens to call 911 if they ever see a dangerous or suspected impaired driver on the road, and we will respond. Just a couple community updates from our end. HRP participated in virtual divisional meetings with councillors to introduce divisional commanders and discuss ongoing issues within the areas. And along with members of the senior HRP team, I participated in virtual discussions with Central and West councillors. Due to a scheduling conflict, East was postponed, but I look forward to the opportunity to connect with those councillors very soon. And last month, HRP participated in a virtual career expo. This was hosted by Blue Line Magazine. It was an opportunity for us to connect with individuals who are interested in a career in security, police, or fire, and network with other organizations in the field. And finally, we held a Police Diversity Working Group strategic session recently with the Rcmp and with you, Chair. It's been 4 years since the creation of the committee. We had the chair of the committee, Elder Deb, and ran through a number of priorities and pathways forward. These will be shared with the broader Police Diversity Working Group in the very near future, and we look forward to continuing the work that has been done and will continue to be done by that committee. And subject to any questions, those are my updates, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments from members at all? Seeing none. Chief Wright.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for everybody for participating in our moment of silence today. I appreciate that. Further to Chief Kinsella's comments regarding National Volunteer Week, the RCMP is also supported by many volunteers in our district. We have 73 who give their time, talent, and knowledge while enhancing safer communities. These individuals we know are an integral part of the work that we do. Despite the challenges that COVID has brought us, RCMP volunteers continue to show their dedication, motivation, and passion, and continue making a positive impact through the district. Their willingness to be involved and their concern for their community members is commendable. To thank them for that. Halifax District continues to actively participate in the HRM Road Safety Committee. I'll let you know the Road Safety Week is upcoming. It's a month away, May 18th to 25th, and the district will have a number of different initiatives every day in regards to that, those strategies. A few stats in regards to traffic for us. In the month of March, of course, we had 28 charges for impaired driving. Age ranges from 17 to 66. Of note, though, is that we received 41 911 calls with the public reporting impaired drivers. So I'll bring that to your attention just to reinforce and remind everybody how important it is to call 911 if you do see an impaired driver. We need the community involved, and as you can see, a number of them actually resulted in charges. Also, we had 10 stunting charges. In regards to COVID, Halifax District members, we continue to enforce health protection orders. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had over 2,000 calls for service. 1,500 of those are Quarantine Act files. 56% of the SOTs issued are to those gathering in vehicles or for those failing to self-isolate in school parking lots, traffic stops, and dead-end streets. 48% of the SOTs issued are as a result of receiving public complaints. So again, it shows that our community is involved and they're taking these the pandemic and the restrictions seriously, and we appreciate that. In regards to community, we've just recently completed a managerial review, which is an internal RCMP process on our Preston detachment. There's a number of targeted reviews, including external relationships as well within that MR. The resulting recommendations will be aligned with our new strategic plan for Preston detachment. We've had recent meetings with the community mobilization team discussing the impact of violence on their communities. And we've had initial meetings with HRM Public Safety on the municipal drug and alcohol strategy. As stated prior, we had a counselor lunch and learn this past week, efforts to better align their priorities with ours and discuss, give them a better insight into our realities, challenges, but also our successes. In regards to training, our block training is back and running now. Because of COVID, we did have to have some restrictions. So what this means is that all of our members in our district will be up to date on their mandatory training, which includes scenario-based as well as our annual firearms qualifications. We recently had what's called a coffee with a cop. Our recruiters, as well as African Nova Scotian members, met with people online and basically answered questions about the recruiting process, discussed questions as well as connected them with African Nova Scotian members. And further to what Chief Counsel was speaking to in regards to the Police Diversity Working Group, Halifax District is looking forward to the next step in the strategic planning of this group and looking forward to connect with the community members again. And that's all I have, Chair, unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Great update, lots happening. Commissioner McDougall.
I was just wondering if I could suggest that if they're going to be, I know with the new counselors, there's a real interest in educating and orienting, onboarding so that they understand what's going on, not only in their own district, but throughout the system. And given that we've got civilian commissioners, I'm wondering if we couldn't include commissioners when there's invitations to participate in, a virtual meeting with watch commanders or whatever we've heard, just because it's, I think, equally important to be as aware for commissioners as it is for counselors, because we're making decisions too that will impact the whole service and both services. And so it would be good to include if possible going forward.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, through you, Chair. Certainly, as stated, the updating our communication strategy does definitely include the commissioners as well as all the counselors in the messaging. Again, we're just in the first two meetings accomplished, and we're still moving forward with it, and you will be included.
So Janice, I just want to point out that I meant to say this after I heard from Dan, and I didn't get a chance. So because we'd already had that bit of exchange earlier, and but just, it's just a thought that before COVID, there was a meeting in Dartmouth North with HRP and some of the members serving there. And I went to that. I think there was another commissioner there. It's just interesting to hear the kinds of questions. And so it was really more specifically to connect to Dan, because I think I'd already mentioned it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Not seeing anyone else in the chat or on the screen. That is it for the updates from our chiefs. The last item that we have is, well, we have other items, but the in-camera piece There's no added items. There's no items for future consideration. Before we go in camera, I'm wondering if there are any motions from commissioners at all. Seeing none. Okay, so now we'll head in camera for the private confidential in camera information report, re-security matter. And I ask for a motion for us to go in camera.
I move that we go in camera.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Blackburn, Commissioner Blackburn, second by Commissioner Kent, that we go in camera.
Process
Okay,
wise for going in camera. Please leave this meeting and go into the in-camera invitation you have on your calendars. It'll be a Microsoft Teams link that you will follow in your calendar appointment. We will return to this meeting to end the meeting in public.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes,
can you hear me?
yes.
I don't know if Lindell has left or not. I don't have that appointment, so I'm not sure if I'm to be included in this conversation or not, because I didn't receive, or I don't know what the in-camera topic is.
Okay, just hang on one second. I'll check in with him because I've got everything open here. Lindell, can you hear me? So I'm on the other screen and I have Chief Gray, and she's not sure if is she coming to this meeting? She would be part of it or not? Okay. Okay, can you hear me, Janice?
I can.
Yes, so you're good to, you don't need to come in. This one is around HRP, the internal audit, so you're good, unless you
Okay.
want to, yeah.
Well, I guess the thing is that am I supposed to be there? It's not, do I want to be there? Can you hear me okay? No, I can't hear you, Becky. You're muted.
Thank you. They're telling me no, that you were not expected in this one.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day. Take care.
Thanks.
Can you hear me, Lindell? So we're in the right meeting, good.
Yep,
Sure.
we're good.
All
I think
good.
we got
It's hard to know these days.
Oh, it's
I'm seeing in camera and it's like, okay, no, Becky, read it. What does it say?
I know it's so hard, and anyway, these
We're getting better.
So
Yeah, we are,
Commissioner
we are.
Smith, Commissioner Smith, we do have quorum, and on your go, we'll take down the slide. We are live.
Yep, let's do it. All right, we're back over to camera, and last piece on the agenda is for motion to adjourn. So looking for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Kent, and I believe the next date of our meeting is May 17th, 2021. And until that, thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and